In a previous video, I talked about the importance of powder flowability for filling the dye in the tablet press. I'd like to demonstrate that further here, first by showing you how the dye fills with material with excellent powder flow. Now I'm going to strike it off and it should be relatively full, pretty close. And now when we push it up, we can see that in fact the dye was full of a lot of material. Now I'd like to demonstrate what it looks like as the dye is being filled with a powder that doesn't flow quite as well. Now, when I lower the punch, you can see that almost no material fell into the dye whatsoever. I'm going to strike this off as I did before. There's quite a bit of missing material, which you can see as I push up the lower punch, just how little there was there. You can also see that material is not flowing any further and hasn't fallen off the punch tip, but instead just stays exactly as it landed. And you can see, okay, there is some powder there, but again, it would not be a consistent amount of powder due to the poor flowability of this material. It's not always practical to measure flowability on the tablet press itself. How do you measure it? Well, one method is to use a Flodex. For this method, you'll typically choose a larger aperture size and then decrease the aperture size until you find the limit where no powder flows. So that will be the minimum aperture size. It could be 16 millimeters. It could be 4 millimeters, depending on the flowability of your powder. This will give an indication of what size of dye will function for the powder of your formulation, but it's not a direct one-to-one. The tablet press has mechanisms such as a power feeder that can help push the material into the dye to fill it, but a material that goes through a 4 millimeter aperture is surely going to fill a dye much more easily than one where it doesn't pass a much larger aperture. In this case, we're using a 16 millimeter aperture. So we'll put this on here. So I'm going to fill this lower cup with the powder, and the opening that I showed was blocked. And then when we let the material fall, we can see how well it flows through that size of aperture.
In the next episode of JRS Tableting Studio, we continue our powder flowability series. Discover how the angle of repose is measured and what it reveals about powder flow behavior. We also compare different materials to show how their flow characteristics can vary. JRS Tableting Studio. Stay tuned.